What is the setting of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World? In one sense, it's a fairly simple question. The story takes place in Toronto at some point in the 2000s. We see classic Toronto landmarks like Honest Ed's and Casa Loma. But, as the film's opening narration tells us, this is a fictional world. Scott Pilgrim takes place during some ambiguous past in an apparently mysterious place. And that's basically true. The film doesn't open with shots of hockey, beavers, and maple syrup, to borrow a phrase from David Murphy, nor does it start with aerial shots of the CN Tower and High Park. Even within that broader setting of Toronto, the narrative frame consists almost entirely of the Annex and Queen West, two neighborhoods, quote, predominantly populated by students and young professionals. As a longtime fan of the movie, I was actually quite surprised when I started adding all these places to my fan pilgrimage list on Google Maps, and found that most of the story takes place within a 30-minute walk. And perhaps that's no accident. If the Annex is a place for young adults to slowly figure out their lives, then it's the perfect setting for our specific protagonist, aimless and unmotivated, stuck in a distinctly early 20s existential crisis. Throughout the film, Scott has trouble mediating his childhood nostalgia with the impending world of careers and bills and responsibilities. He's an adult man who has to borrow money from his girlfriend to pay for the streetcar. And that is partly what gives this film its magic. Scott isn't just some loser living in Anytown, USA. He's a millennial in a terrible band living in the Annex in the 2000s. With that in mind, for this video, we're looking at the specific locations of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World as they appear in 2025. Some are very ordinary places, some just don't exist anymore, and others, by their inclusion in this story, have taken on entirely new meanings. Welcome to the Fan Pilgrimage, Toronto in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Let's dive right in. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, a movie that we are going to talk about today in this video. Welcome to Computer Lab Hijinks, a show about games, old software, and web ephemera. I'm Nathan, and today, this week, joining me is Scout.
Hey.
Who are you, Scout?
My name is Scout Stoltman. I've worked with Nathan in the past on both Steeltown Gaming and Exiles Beyond.
Two fictional web shows we did back in the day.
Yeah, and now for the first time, the four of you who watched that and this are gonna get to see the real me. So, there we go.
So today we're doing a Scott Pilgrim tour through Toronto as part of a new series on real-world places in fiction, and perhaps more importantly, fictional places in the real world. What? Can you believe it? This is something of a secular pilgrimage through the world of Scott Pilgrim as presented in the 2010 movie. Scout, how do you feel about this trek through Toronto?
I'm feeling very good about it. I'm excited for you guys to see where I live, get to know the areas I walk around all the time, and to introduce Nathan to the great world of Scott Pilgrim.
So I don't live in Toronto, you do, and you know these haunts. One of the first things you told me when we started planning this video was that Honest Ed's is of course closed and is condos now. So this is...
Yeah, beyond closed, straight up demolished.
Oh yeah, demolished.
Like it just doesn't exist now. And it is a full-on condo building, which is a pretty common trait for Toronto, I feel like. It's an unfortunate fact of Toronto is everything gets replaced by condos. So
yeah, and so our particular trek, our Scott Pilgrim tour, it's going to take a particular slice of the series and the franchise. So we're looking just at the movie, and in fact, mostly at places that are still in Toronto that haven't closed. And so this Pizza is still here. So this is Bloor and Bathurst. And so they're in the Pizza at one point, and you can see Honest Ed's in the background. Of course, in the graphic novel series, they go in Honest Ed's, there's a whole fight. But in this video, we're just talking about the movie where you see Honest Ed's, and we can't see it now, we just have to imagine.
Yes.
So my question for you, Scout, is, are you feeling, in this secular pilgrimage, this religious experience, are you feeling an elevated, heightened thing?
I'm feeling euphoric, Nathan.
Euphoric.
I feel in touch with Scotty P himself.
That's good. So there are no official Scott Pilgrim tours in Toronto, and in fact, there's only one official Toronto movie tour. In New York City, there's a few film tours, especially for Sex and the City, and there's Home Alone 2. Elf apparently is a big one.
Okay.
And I looked up whether Toronto had any, and it has one that's sort of a mishmash of all the things that have been shot here, and none of them, with a few exceptions, none of them are actually set in Toronto.
Yeah.
So the tour is like The Boys, American Psycho, Handmaid's Tale.
Suits,
Suits also not set in Toronto.
Suits is huge.
There's a film tour in Toronto, but it's not about stuff set in Toronto. But Scott Pilgrim, crucially, is set and filmed largely in Toronto.
Yeah, which is kind of what makes it pretty special as a movie itself, you know? I think a lot of American productions rightfully come up here to kind of utilize the resources and just how much cheaper it is to film here. And also, too, Canada is often seen as this other world compared to America, or more confusing international audiences. It's one thing that's great about Scott Pilgrim is that given that there is sort of that notion of Toronto being the unknown or Canada being the unknown compared to America, it actually makes that an advantage for the movie itself, and it being this like far off, mystical, fantastical place almost, which actually then becomes, oh yeah, Toronto is a place where you battle 7 evil ex-boyfriends or something, you know? So it's great. I love Canada, don't get me wrong, but on an international scale, we're the unknown little brother of America in terms of media output, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Like at best, if you're in a country that's outside of America or anywhere, at best you're gonna know us from like Trailer Park Boys, and that's probably gonna be it. That's at least been my experience, you know, traveling abroad. Is they'll know Trailer Park Boys, and that's about it.
Unless they're a lot older, then they'll know Murdoch Mysteries. But
no, not outside of Canada. No, not outside of Canada. Like, that's a very Canada-centric thing, I think. And that's the thing, too, is that to have Toronto represent this very specific thing and this very specific culture and style, Canadian cities don't really get that at all, because there's a stigma around Canadian movies and TV shows just not being that good. So it's interesting to see one kind of cream rise into the top, so to speak.
Crucially, something to keep in mind, Canada does have a good cinema industry, but that is, of course, in Montreal with French language cinema. World-class movies. The rest of Canada cannot make a movie to save their life. I'm willing to say that on the record. There's
I disagree.
Once every decade, there's a good Canadian movie, and the rest are just unforgivably bad. So this was the former Honest Ed's RIP to both Ed Mirvish and this location.
Yeah.
And our next stop is going to be 65... No. Yes. Alberta? 65 Alberta Avenue. I have notes.
That's okay. Perfect.
And we are here at 65 Alberta Avenue. And Scott, what do you think?
It's definitely the Scott Pilgrim house.
It's just a door.
It is a door. It's now got wood over top of it. Yeah.
It has changed, I think, mid-2010s. It looked less like it does in the movie, but now it's sort of back to something almost resembling the movie.
Exactly. Looks more like a shed now.
I think it is a storage shed, and they just made it look like a house in the movie somehow.
Movie magic.
Movie magic. So this is...
What can Edgar Wright not do, you know? Turned a shed into another iconic shed in another iconic way.
So this originally was not on my list, but Scout, I'm going to throw you under the bus. This was your idea to stop here at 65 Alberta Avenue.
Yeah, it was a pretty dumb idea to think that we should go and visit Scott Pilgrim's house on the Scott Pilgrim tour. I guess I was just stupid for thinking this might be one of the ideal places to check out.
To be fair, a lot of the film takes place in what is supposedly inside there. Of course,
yes.
It's in a soundstage in the movie, but this is where he collects the package from Ramona Flowers. So my question to you, Scout, is can you feel the magic? Can you feel the Holy Spirit in this place?
Oh, I always feel the Holy Spirit.
We are on sacred ground. This is a regular house on a regular street, but it is imbued with meaning through fiction.
Yes. Absolutely.
And I must say, when I first saw this door, I thought, yeah, it's just a regular door. You know, I don't necessarily feel like I'm in a heightened place. I'm not in Huizinga's magic circle. Is it Huizinga? Oh, it's Huizinga. I said that badly.
Huizinga? What are you talking about? What are you doing? Are we on the Young Sheldon tour, or are we on the Scott Pilgrim tour? Going to Huizinga's circle. What are you talking about?
That's all I have to say about 65 Alberta. And we are here at our next stop, which is Lee's Palace, the famous spot from Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Black Sheep is performed there. The Clash at Demon Head play. So Lee's Palace, of course, a music venue. And in fact, on the front, great live music. Proud to support great live music.
Yes.
Scout, what's your connection to this place?
My connection to this place is that back when I was in a band in college and I was living the Scott Pilgrim life minus dating a minor, I was playing in a band. I did play at Lee's Palace once or twice.
Hell yeah.
Although my haters would say I only played it once. And yeah, it was great. It was fun. It was like a dream come true at the time. And the big thing I remember was that everything in the movie was just like way bigger than it actually is in real life. The actual venue, it's classic movie magic where that backstage area, even where they meet up with a Clash of Demon Head and they have the initial face-off, that back room exists, except it's really goddamn tiny. It's basically just a broom closet. It's kind of like tucked away to like the upper left of the venue. And yeah, everything just way smaller. But yeah, it's a iconic Toronto landmark for sure.
Oh, yeah, we got some sweet beeping from a truck back there, but these are the real Toronto sounds. This is what we wanted to capture.
Exactly.
And we're feeling the Holy Spirit on this good day.
Again?
Again.
Okay.
Every stop.
All right. I'm feeling it. Yeah.
All right.
It's all about Jesus at the end of the day. What are we doing, Nathan? What's happening? Is this about Scott Pilgrim?
All right, so we are here at the Toronto Public Library Wychwood location. I kept saying Wychwood, but I think someone corrected me. It's Wychwood, and this is the location of one of Scott's outings with knives, where they're picking up books, and Scott mentions that it reminds him of grade school. And then this is the first IRL appearance of Ramona Flowers after Scott sees her in a dream sequence. How are we feeling?
Feeling good. I think my head's cold, so I'm going to put my toque
your
back
hat. Yeah,
let's put my toque
continuity
back on.
it up.
Yeah.
This is, of course, a significant moment in the Scott Pilgrim versus the World film. The entire inside has been renovated, so I took some pictures, some images in there. It does not at all match what was in the movie, the book drop-off, nothing like that.
Yeah.
But there were some stairs, and there's this weird building inside a building thing with the renovation, where you can see like brick inside of a building that you're already in. Very strange.
It's very cool, yeah.
Looked nice in there. You know how everything kind of looks like an Apple store now? It kind of had that vibe. Like I felt like I was about to go buy like an iPod Nano.
Nice.
It was a good aesthetic. Not much to say narratively about this scene, but it was nice to visit, and because it looks so different from the movie, I did not feel the Holy Spirit on this religious secular pilgrimage.
Yeah.
How about you?
I did, but I say that as someone who lives in Toronto. I love the Toronto Library. They've got a lot of great programs that exist there. So if you've got a library card, it allows you to like go to the CN Tower for free. It allows you to like go to the ROM for free. Gives you free movies and a bunch of other free stuff. I mean, truly get a library card if you live in the city, because there's so many perks to having a library card in Toronto.
Yes. Also, our first time on this trek, people keep rolling down windows and looking at us. I think they're wondering if we're like a Mr. Beast video or something.
It is a Mr. Beast concept. Would you like to fight off 7 evil exes in order to get one woman all for you? That's just what Scott Pilgrim is.
That's true. Shout outs to the TPL Toronto Public Library. There is an amazing group of pigeons flying, and it's off camera. I'm so sorry, everyone.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. You know, like the opening of True Detective? It was like that.
Yeah,
wow.
But Toronto. As an audio-visual medium, you're going to love this thing that happened off camera and off mic.
And that was this location. And we'll move on to our next stop.
Have you ever read a book before?
From the Scholastic book order one time, I ordered Calvin and Hobbes, and for some reason, they had it late, but they sent me a Garfield collection instead, and I was so mad because there was just not the same narrative level of thematic intent in Garfield.
Yeah, Calvin and Hobbes doesn't have nearly as much lasagna, I think.
And this was the Toronto Public Library Wychwood branch.
Yeah, and you know what they say, I hate Mondays, but...
If it's Wychwood,
no,
it's good. Wait, what?
I hate Mondays, but I love lasagna.
Is that a saying?
Yeah, it's Garfield.
Oh, okay.
Did you know Garfield said that?
I did not know that was a saying.
Yeah, it's a Garfield thing.
Okay.
And then there's also the classic John Arbuckle quote. Do you know which one that one is?
No.
Garfield!
That's a good quote.
It's a great one.
And here we are at Casa Loma. A lot of loud cars going by, but we're here at Casa Loma, location of the Lucas Lee fight from Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Scout, how are we feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good about Casa Loma, iconic Toronto spot. I had a friend who worked at Casa Loma and told me that most of the things in Casa Loma are not historically accurate and they're just put in there to fill the space out. But most of the furniture you see in the place was never actually there to begin with. Trade secrets.
Trade secrets from
Trade
Casa
secrets
Loma.
getting exposed for Casa Loma right now.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, it's Casa Loma, not the Castle of Oma, which is what I always thought it was. These are the true fact-checked information tidbits that you can only find on Computer Lab Hijinks.
You're an idiot.
So this is a historic site, perhaps most known to the world as a filming location. Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Also, Drake and Future Wait for You was shot here.
Yes, it was actually.
So there's like a cylindrical building over there, and I believe that is the one that Scott gets thrown into by Lucas Lee in the fight scene. It's either that one or a different one, but I have a good feeling it's that one.
Nice, yeah.
So this is Casa Loma. This is hallowed ground already. I was a little nervous about where to set up these tripods so people don't kick us out. And there's just straight up a family flying a drone around. So
yeah,
everyone has a different
true.
comfort level with content creation.
Yeah, Nathan was really concerned about us getting kicked out of one of the most popular tourist destinations for filming Casa Loma.
I like to follow the rules. I'm a good egg, okay?
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know how many times I've been arrested? 0.
It's true, because he hasn't been caught yet.
I have other facts, but they're for a different part of Casa Loma, which we'll go to now.
Oh, was I supposed to say something to that? Do you want me to do that too? Baldwin Steps.
And here we are now at the Baldwin Steps. This is a very close-up, low-angle shot because the stairs are kind of hard to frame from this vantage point. Yeah, so these are the Baldwin Steps, part of Casa Loma. And of course, Scout, what happens here?
This is the moment in the film where Lucas Lee skates and grinds all the way down. In spite of in real life, there's a bunch of little bubbles and bumps on the rail.
It would be very hard to grind this because you'd keep getting knocked off the thing.
It would be, but this is where Lucas Lee does his triumphant grind down, and then I believe dies.
He dies. He explodes into coins.
How does he die?
According to Wallace, he totally bailed, and then he explodes into coins, as many characters do. These are some nice steps. They, according to the movie, they are 300 steps, and the rails are garbage. That's a Lucas Lee quote.
Yeah.
And I can see it. The rails, as you mentioned, not grindable, but a very scenic, pleasant thing to look at.
Yeah.
I feel like the Baldwin Steps. I don't know what they mean, as I don't know what much of Casa Loma means.
Casa Loma.
Casa Loma means Casa Loma. It's one of those sort of circular logic things.
It's true, yeah. It's spelled the same way frontwards and backwards.
Don't even bother checking that. It's probably correct. So I feel like this is a pretty heightened space. It looks nice.
Yeah, I mean, Casa Loma is one of the go-to tourist spots, and I feel like the Baldwin Steps is sort of in that same scope and in that same idea. Probably not one of the, if you're a local, you're not really going to Casa Loma that much, I don't feel like. And also stairs. Who wants to walk up fucking stairs?
That's labor. That is...
It sucks.
I felt like a bit of a chump walking down them. I thought, this is just tricking me. This is brought to you by Big Fitbit.
Yeah, when we showed up, Nathan was only wearing Crocs and no socks, and when he got to the top of the stairs, he slipped and fell and tumbled down like Justin Trudeau does. The back of his head is bleeding, he's got 18 bruises, and he might not even be alive by the end of the day.
Much of that is untrue, but I did fall today and have to buy new shoes. These stylish Adidas's.
They're Brooks. Did you even look before you said that?
No, what the hell's a Brooks?
Do you know what you bought? Brooks, it's a brand of running shoe, and they're great. I love Brooks. I got a Brooks Ghosts at home. Shout out. I like to run. Nathan does not like the stairs. It's one and the same.
Anyway, so I hope this has been illuminating in terms of Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Listen, in terms of Scott Pilgrim versus the World, this is definitely the scene with the stairs.
These are the Baldwin Steps.
They sure are, yeah.
Named, of course, not after any of the famous Baldwins. Neither Steve nor Alex nor James.
Yes.
It's actually named after a man named Baldwin Steps.
Yeah.
That wasn't that funny, but I thought it was.
I think Baldwin Steps is a good joke. Let's do it again.
Perhaps named...
Shut up.
You tricked me into that. All right, so we're back at the Pizza. We kind of just flipped the cameras around to talk about the Pizza, Bloor and Bathurst, where they go after the fight at Lee's Palace. And so, Scout, I'm going to put you on the spot. You are a pompous hipster. It says here on the internet, a pompous hipster who hates Pizza because you expect chain restaurants to be like Michelin star gourmet.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I stand on it. And I will die on that hill, absolutely. I definitely soften my stance on Pizza. But that being said, of the chain restaurants that exist in Ontario and Toronto, it probably sucks the most.
Oh, so you still have a harsh take. Okay.
I still don't think it's good. I think it's still the worst chain pizza you can get. And I think there's plenty of great chain Toronto pizzas. Gino's is way better.
Gino's is good.
Two for One is way better. So why the fuck are we going to Pizza in the first place?
Oh, so you're still harsh on it.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying I don't care as much as I used to about it. And I feel like the comments are going to agree with me that Pizza just sucks. No one's like, yeah, I love Pizza.
Wow, Scout pandering to the chat to get some free likes.
Chat, am I cooked right now?
I'm canceling my whole show. My hottest take is I actually quite like Little Caesars, and for me, they are the best chain.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I am willing to die on that hill, and it actually is relevant.
That's an L take, chat. Chat, this guy's not locked in. He's geeking right now. Which again, Pizza in a pinch. I love the panzerottis. I love the calzones. That stuff's great, but it's terrible. If you visit Toronto, don't go to Pizza. If you're here for the Scott Pilgrim pilgrimage, don't go to Pizza. Like, get a photo outside and then fuck off to a different, pizza place. There's so many better pizza places. King Slice, Fourth Man in the Fire.
Fourth Man in the Fire, it's a good spot.
Intentional shout out. Not subtle. Actually, if Pizza wants to sponsor me, I love Pizza. It's probably one of my favorite chains, but if they don't want to sponsor me, then it sucks.
Oh, we will accept a Pizza sponsorship.
Yeah, get the Pizza money for sure.
So next time you're ordering pizza at Pizza, tell the server Computer Lab 25, and he won't know what that is, but just keep shouting it until you get a discount, 10% off all orders.
Just demand a discount. I cannot stress enough, if you're visiting Toronto, do not go to Pizza. My God, literally take a photo outside and then just fuck off somewhere else. It is not worth it.
And folks, this was the Scott Pilgrim secular religious pilgrimage through Toronto. So I want to shout out two texts that heavily influenced this video. But first, Scout, how did it feel?
I live here, so I felt the same.
Very good. Well, on that note, some of the great texts that we read for this video. Virtual Canadian Realities by David Murphy, subtitled Charting the Scott Pilgrim Universe. And one of the things that David Murphy posits in that paper is that because Toronto is sort of hard to capture into one narrative vibe, there's so many different Torontos, different neighborhoods mean different things, and it rejects the sort of pseudo-nationalist bacon, hockey, and maple syrup. Those are the phrases he uses. What the film utilizes instead heavily, and this is no hot take at all, but magical realism. And within magical realism, are you ready, Scout? Are you formulating your rebuttal? Within magical realism.
Rebuttal? Are we fighting?
You need a debate.
Are we debating Scott Pilgrim right now? Okay.
And within magical realism, a very specific Gen X and older millennial nostalgia for video game culture, and the phrase Nintendo generation comes up. So that becomes the sort of generation unifying thing within Scott Pilgrim. And in fact, despite the temporal setting of the story, all the stuff in Scott's apartment is a Super Nintendo, an NES, VHS tapes, an old computer, even though it's set in the present day of 2010. With that, Scout, Virtual Canadian Realities, and another essay that I'll find.
Okay.
The Emergence of Fan Pilgrimage Sites was a chapter in a book about religious pilgrimages to fictional places. I'm going to throw something at you. Are you ready?
I do appreciate you brought me out here. It's like, oh, we got a loose idea. You got a full script. You got 8 pages out in front of you. You said, oh, just be funny. I'll never forget that.
I'll read some quotes and you can say woozle wazzle.
Okay, woozle.
So here comes the big quote, and I'll keep it light on the quotes, because this is the conclusion. In this research context, the concept of fans is often a substitute for the term tourists, implying that these visitors possess a deep affection for and loyal interest in the media content. Their emotional link to a so-called pilgrimage site is thought to be more intense and long-lasting than that of general tourists, going beyond the mere cognitive activity of travel.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I think that Scott Pilgrim, especially as someone who grew up being a Canadian, there's not much representation for us in mainstream movies at all, full stop, other than maybe Trailer Park Boys. And to be living somewhere, living a very specific life, a very specific notion is very, very cool. And it ends up being deeply meaningful when you get to go to these places that you saw in like this big movie, so to speak.
Yeah. I think there's so many little details, like the whole plot of Envy moving to Montreal when she made it. That is very Toronto. Everyone I've met has some story of a coworker who went on to be in a successful thing or made it out of Toronto, so to speak.
Well, totally. Well, out of Canada in general, I think even.
Yes,
a lot of like, that's the thing too, is that with Canada specifically, a lot of Canadians become big by abandoning their Canadian identity in so many ways. It's actually almost necessary, like with a lot of people that are in American movies and doing American projects and stuff. And I think it's unlike any other place in terms of media where we lose a lot of great talent to America pretty much constantly, because it's sort of a requirement for advancing your career in so many ways.
Especially with our comedy industry here, it's like you could be on some of the CBC sketch shows, but there's only 4 jobs for the whole country. There's some stuff, but it's not a career by any means.
Yeah, and I think things are changing as we move more towards niches, and that sort of stuff is evolving. No, but I appreciate it. I love being in this city, and I like being here. So yeah,
very nice.
Sorry, I'm getting kind of lightheaded right now. I'm not gonna lie. It's getting to the end of the road here.
It's been a long day of filming. Part of the secret reason that I want to film in, by the way, we're in High Park. We didn't say that earlier, but this is the north side of High Park. This is a place that I didn't care that much about until I saw a fictional story that partly took place here. Fan Pilgrimage, Nirvana the Band, the show, the web series, I believe episode 7 or 8, the Battle of the Bands episode, largely takes place here. Matt's hunting a goose. And the reason I bring that up is to say that I had explored a lot of Toronto before watching that show, and people were showing me landmarks that I could not give less of a shit about, especially and including the Rivoli. Point being, High Park is a place that for me was given elevated meaning through fiction, and perhaps we'll do another pilgrimage at some point soon, secular religious pilgrimage for Nirvana the Band, the show, another Toronto set story. But this was the Scott Pilgrim tour through Toronto. Did you feel the Holy Spirit today? Of the secular pilgrimage?
I feel the Holy Spirit right now. I feel like I'm transcending, yes, but I think it's, I feel like I'm transcending right now. It's beautiful to revisit these places and go down memory lane a little bit of both seeing the movie and my own personal experiences in the city. Yeah.
So this was Computer Lab Hijinks. I am Nathan. And this was Scout.
And I'm Scout.
It's okay. It's been a long day.
I didn't know I was a co-host now. I don't know what my role in all
Everyone's
this
a co-host on this show.
Everyone's a co-host? Okay, and I'm Scout. Subbing in for Will Rants today, I am Scout.
All right, well, on that note, remember to keep your files safe, keep your passwords managed, and for goodness sake, don't click on any strange links. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yes.